catch the tail of what Gina said, and that is training. And now, as we think that mostly training is the basis, the cornerstone of providing good health service to the patient, we'll move to the next topic, which is proctoring, teleproctoring, colorectal surgery.
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize for the title I gave.
Yes, actually, and Evangelos, you really gave me one of the toughest jobs I ever had. And so before I'm going to talk about that, I'd like to know from the audience, who of you knows about teleproctoring? So this is calming, because until yesterday, even me, I didn't know anything about that. Well, finally it's about, I would say, effective and successful teaching. And so proctoring, the translation in the German language is, well, it's several things. It includes teaching and supervision, controlling and correcting, providing expert consultation, and coaching, finally. Evangelos, does that meet your idea?
Well,
not yet. Well, and the methods to perform proctoring can be used in different ways. So it can be used prospectively. That's what the definitions say. If you look into the books, and there are guidelines and quality things and so on, saying it's before treatment, then you have to talk about indication and risky procedures. So to give advice, so what we discussed this afternoon, does it make to do that? So if a patient had a pelvic floor surgery before, has now a tumor, and she's 97 years old, and it is risky, so what to do? So not to leave the decision to one person, but to teach him by an expert. So the second one is concurrently, and this is mainly observation. So it's part of the next thing, which is called teleproctoring. It means when you sit, let's say, in front of a robotic, and you know there are consoles for teaching and for acting. And you may know, I know that from one specific department where this happens right now. So the expert is going to show with his finger, now make an incision here, then the next here. Be careful that you do not damage that. It's pretty boring for the expert who is watching, but this is what is meant with observation proctoring. Isn't it strange, Bill, what I'm going to tell, what I just read? And the final one makes sense in my mind. It's retrospective proctoring. So if you realize a mistake and analyze it, and by the way, you make progress only if you accept that anything you did not achieve, you had decided to get before. So when you operate a patient for rectal cancer, you want to cure him. You want to avoid local recurrence. If he suffers a local recurrence, you've made a mistake. It's not biology, or it's misinterpretation of MRI, Gina. It's a personal mistake. And if you don't take it like that, you will never improve. If you say it was the radiologist, it was the radiotherapist who did a bad job, it was the assistant, and the nurse gave me the wrong stapler, this is wrong. It's your personal fault. This is the only way to improve. And the second one is a job I'm freely doing now. Act as an expert witness for law courts. And so bile duct lesions with laparoscopic cholecystectomy is quite common. And if you watch sometimes sigmoid or rectal resections laparoscopically, you realize they create big tear. So, fortunately, they take videos on CTs from all these operations. And so when you get an accuse by a lawyer, an attorney, saying my patient was pretty wrong, so you have to ask, it's easy to answer the question if you get the DVDs, and that's what I'm going to do. So I do no more rely on the paper and on the forms, but I ask for the DVDs, and then you realize immediately. So he didn't even realize or ignore the bile leak, or it was quite evident that the next step would be a cut through the common bile duct, or the next one will be a big tear in the mesorectum. So that's what's about proctoring and what you could do with that. So, and if you turn that into telemonitoring, you end up with what is called teleproctoring. So it's a conventional proctoring, but what those people who are thinking more about that are saying is it will help you in the future. So you know the term OR1. Sounds great, so you get everything. So all these media stuffs that are available now. So then they believe that you get rapid access to the references written elsewhere. So any expert has written a recommendation for a similar case. So you push the button and give in. So Gina, by the way, we have not only in the future radiomics, but we may also have surgicomics or something like that. So you put data inside and immediately get a report what to do in this specific case. So it sounds ridiculous, but that's what they are thinking about. So, and then the interactive CD-ROM. So a resident is alone on his own. His boss is here in this meeting, and he is supposed to do a low anterior rectal section laparoscopically. So, and now he doesn't know how to continue. And then he looks all through these data available by interactive CD-ROMs, and he looks for movie clips and for illustrations, and finally he's not able to find the solution. He will send his boss an email with all this stuff, and he will get the answer. This is what really they are thinking of. So, and finally, you can look for the latest, this is written there, academic review of the literature, just to avoid any mistake. So, this is what's teleproctoring. So, when I prepared this talk, I realized that isn't new at all. So, more than 20 years ago, I was asked to test the high width band connection between Munich through Erlangen to Berlin. And there was a lot of money on the street, so 1.5 million Deutschmarks at that time. And so I called Rüdiger Sievert in Munich, you may know him. He is a well-known, or was a well-known aperture eye surgeon. And I told him, I called him and said, well, listen, Rüdiger, from now on, you don't understand anything of colorectal surgery. Do you agree? He said, yes. And I agree, I understand nothing of gastric and esophageal resections. So you are the expert in this field, and I'm the expert in this field. And we are going to teach one another to bring us to the same level. So we received the money. The only thing we did, I switched on this line when he had his 65th birthday, unexpectedly for him in the morning round, and I was suddenly on the screen and congratulated him. So this was also a matter of teleproctoring. Well, what are the prerequisites in my mind? You will be accepted only if you are a really competent expert. So they must believe in you. You cannot call you an expert by yourself. So you must make the proof, you must be accepted. So like Bill, you are an expert, and you do teleproctoring, by the way. If you work, when you work in Champalimaud, probably you do a similar thing. So, but you need to be accepted by the trainees. By the way, this is one of the experiences in my life. To be successful, you need acceptance first. If you shout at somebody before you start any discussion, you will never get acceptance. So you can turn around and go home, you will never be successful. So acceptance is the next thing. Must be accepted by the trainee. And you must avoid a scenario with dominance. So your trainee must not feel that somebody is dominating him, and he has no chance to do what he likes to do. And finally, it must be a faithful communication, confidence. So the trainee must know that he can rely on his trainer. And this is what Søren asked me, what I finally needed when I did this project in Denmark. You need a lot of patience. just to keep cool and not to well, exaggerate the situation to the worst. Well, finally, what it means is shown by an old slide. So you may know that Paul Hermann, our pathologist, did a study in the 80s. It was like a patient care study. And so 7 centers in, so Evangelos, if I'm talking too long, stop me.
Okay.
So 7 centers in Germany participated, which believed to be the highest quality centers in Germany. But unfortunately they were not. And this was a hospital in Munich, and each stud represents an individual surgeon. And this was the head of the department. He had the highest rate of local recurrences, and these were his residents. So that's what I want to say by telling you need to be an expert, otherwise any teaching or proctoring is nonsense. So we couldn't teach them, they were at the same level, and it was different in the other 2 departments, by the way, in Erlangen and in Heidelberg. So the process, how could it work? So firstly you need written guidelines. So you must know what you have to do. And so you need documentation always. Always you need documentation, whatever you do. And you need transparency, so don't hide your mistakes. Make them open. And in a given patient you must develop a concept. So what we did today, we try to find a concept, and then the proctor has to supervise the trainee whether he's following this concept and this in this patient. And first you have to demonstrate what you have to do in similar situations, and the trainee has to observe you, and then the roles are reversed. And of course, if anything goes wrong, the trainer may be able to intervene. What's the problem with laparoscopy and with robotic surgery? Because you can't stop suddenly somebody just to switch off the light, but this is maybe even make things worse. So what I said, what we did, so, and this is now to the clinical application. What we did in my department was we documented any case for oncologic surgery. And this is German, and so with any operation, the surgeon was documented. So we have now, I think, 40,000 patients in this registry, and you can trace back any event to the surgeon. So you can build groups and watch what they did. And so you need reporting, how is it on, well, over a year and so on, rectal cancer. So mortality, leaks, and this is true, by the way. This, they were all controlled after 3 months. Any patient was controlled. And this is our leakage rate for several years. And finally, you must be transparent, honest to yourself. I've rarely told that, but I started with a diary from the first operation I did in '73. And it was hard when I had to, so there are all my mistakes in this book until '97. And sometimes it took me 4 weeks to write my mistake down when it was really hard. So it took time just to write it down. So finally, this was in our department. Each line represents a surgeon. And so you could say it's easy for you. The red line is me. I made all my data public. Everybody in the department could get insight into my results in detail. And about Hermannek and Merger and me, nobody knew about that. For the rest, so each line is this individual surgeon. And so by the system of proctoring, we were very close. And these are the youngsters. Their learning curve is not yet completed. And 5 years later, they would be already with us. Well, an example of proctoring is the CME story, finally. And it started with the guidelines. So write down what you have to do. And the first paper was published, by the way, in Lars Polman's paper at that time, which is now part of the British Journal, the Scandinavian Journal of Surgery. And this was the paper we finally wrote. By the way, 4 years after the first draft, so it took me 4 years to complete it. So there's the guideline, and then is the presentation. So I made it public to say, in Uppsala, Torbjörn Holm was there, invited me to operate. So I operated, I presented, and you could say the others were the trainees. And I did that several times, and we did 3 projects. One in Erlangen, and you may have seen these lady and the guys today. They were there for 10 years always, and I still are very thankful, grateful to them. And we just operated, presented what to do, and watched one another, put the finger in the wound, Søren Lauerberg. And then we had a second project in Stockholm. I think we have been there, Bill, for maybe 7 years, I can't remember, and did the same, operated and assisted. And later on I was in Denmark, in Jutland, and assisted 10 surgeons in 5 institutions, and returned 5 years later. And so did the same, but I was a little bit disappointed, because I realized they had not implemented that. They had changed, there were just 2 left, and that indicates clearly that proctoring or teleproctoring is not successful if you do it once. You must get sustainability for the long-term success of teaching. And so I want to end with these words, and I hope I met you wanted to hear Evangelos, which was really a difficult job.
Thanks. Beyond my expectations. I don't know if there are any comments from the audience or any questions, or if you want to proceed to the next presentation, which actually is more or less has to do with training and discuss the whole issue.